Today we're talking about something that sounds, well, impossible. A type of steel that gets stronger the more you beat on it. It seems to defy logic, but this discovery wasn't just a game changer. It basically invented a whole new game for some of the world's toughest industries.
So let's just jump right in with a question that feels like it breaks the laws of physics, right? What if a metal got stronger the more you hit it? Now, for anyone in an industry that literally smashes rocks for a living, this wasn't some philosophical question. It was a huge, expensive problem they desperately needed to solve.
Okay, so before we get to the miracle solution, we really have to wrap our heads around the core problem here. And for any engineer, this is a classic, a real headache, the constant tug-of-war between hardness and toughness.
All right, so here's the trade-off. Think about it like this. You can make a metal super hard, right? It won't scratch, it resists wear, but the problem is it also becomes brittle. It's kind of like glass. One good smack and it can shatter into a million pieces. Now on the flip side, you can make a metal really tough. It could take a punch, it could absorb a huge impact, but it's also soft. It's going to wear down really fast. And if your job is to crush giant rocks all day long, yeah, neither of those options is going to cut it.
But what if you didn't have to choose? What if you could have both? Well, way back in 1882, one guy made a discovery that pretty much broke all the rules. And in doing so, he basically kicked off the entire field of modern alloy steels as we know it.
And the answer was this stuff, Mangaloy. You also hear it called Hadfield Steel, named after its inventor, Sir Robert Hadfield. He figured out that if you add a ton of manganese, we're talking like 13%, you create this material that just does the impossible. It could take a beating and just laugh it off, and it would resist getting worn down. This was it. This was the first really successful alloy steel.
And you can just picture Hadfield scratching his head, right? Because the steel he made, it looked kind of dull and soft, almost like lead. But then, when he went to work on it with a file, the steel literally ripped the teeth right off the tool. It made no sense. A total paradox.
So what is going on here? How is this even possible? Well, the secret has a name. It's called work hardening, and it's incredible. Every single time the steel gets hit, it builds its own invisible suit of armor. The magic here really starts deep down at the atomic level. See, most steel, at room temperature, has this really rigid crystal structure. But when you dump in all that manganese, something really weird and special happens. It stabilizes this unique, much more flexible structure called austenite. You can kind of think of it like flash freezing a liquid into a shape it would never normally hold. And that flexible structure, that's the key to the whole thing. So check this out. This all happens in the blink of an eye. First, bam! A rock slams into the steel. The pressure from that impact instantly forces that flexible austenite to transform into this incredibly hard surface layer. We're talking the surface becomes over 3 times harder than it was a second ago. But, and this is the absolute genius of it, the metal right underneath that hardened layer, it stays tough and ductile, acting like the world's best shock absorber.
Just think about what a huge difference this is. A conventional hard steel, it's kind of like an eggshell. It's hard, sure, but it's brittle all the way through. One good hit, and the whole thing can just crack. Manganese steel, though, totally different beast. It's got this tough, shock-absorbing core that's protected by a hard surface that actually repairs and strengthens itself. It's the perfect 1-2 punch for taking a beating.
Okay, so if manganese is the magic ingredient, you'd think the solution is simple, right? Just add more, make it even stronger. Well, not so fast. It turns out making the perfect manganese steel is way more of a delicate balancing act.
I mean, it's a pretty common assumption in life, isn't it? If a little bit of something is good, then a lot of it must be even better. But is that actually true in this case? And the answer, coming straight from the people who make this stuff for a living, is a big fat no. In fact, you get to a point where adding more manganese actually starts to make the steel worse, more brittle, less effective. The real secret isn't just dumping more in, it's about getting that recipe, that balance of ingredients just right.
And it really is all about the recipe. The best steel completely depends on what you're going to do with it. If you're crushing ridiculously hard rock, where the biggest enemy is just pure impact, then that classic 13% manganese recipe is still king. It's just so tough. But say you're grinding up something softer but really abrasive, like limestone, then you'd actually want a higher manganese grade, maybe up to 22%, because you need more abrasion resistance, even if you give up a little of that raw impact strength.
So how does all this play out in the real world? Well, it's all about matching the steel to the stone. You gotta pick the right armor for the right fight. And this is where the rubber, or The steel meets the road. You look inside these massive machines, these cone crushers and jaw crushers, and the parts doing all the brutal work, the jaw plates, the mantles, they're all made from these special manganese steels. And the grade they pick isn't random. It's chosen specifically for the type of rock that machine is going to spend its life eating.
And you can kind of see the logic here in this chart. You got hard, non-abrasive rock. That super tough 13% grade is your go-to. But what about something that's both hard and abrasive? Then you're probably going to lean towards that more balanced 18% grade. And getting this choice right is absolutely critical. It makes a huge difference in how well the machine runs, how long it lasts between repairs, and that, of course, has a massive impact on the bottom line.
But you know, the innovation didn't just stop back in 1882. Of course not. Today, engineers are taking this to the next level. They're creating these amazing hybrids, bonding manganese steel with things like super hard ceramics or titanium carbide inserts. It's taking that original idea of a hard surface, tough core and pushing it into the 21st century, creating parts that last 2, 3, even 5 times longer.
So, let's leave it with this final thought. Manganese steel proved that some of our most basic ideas about how materials are supposed to work can be totally wrong. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If we can design a metal that actually gets stronger from being beaten up, what other rules of material science are just sitting there, waiting for someone to come along with the right idea, the right recipe, to break them?